In Utah, it's FBI Special Agent Todd Palmer's job to investigate complaints a police officer violated federal law when they used force.
We'll look to determine, number one, credibility of the complaint. Is there merit here? Is this something that would be a violation of someone's civil liberties? Just because an individual believes that they were mistreated doesn't necessarily mean that it rises to the level of a federal investigation.
Agent Palmer cautions that news headlines and stories aren't always a factual or complete picture of what really happened.
Are the headlines salacious? What is being reported? Is that exactly what happened? Or is that just something to grab people's attention? And the problem with that is people take that as fact. They take that as the way law enforcement does their job.
Palmer examines evidence. For one, he asks, why was the officer on the scene?
You take a good look at that and try to determine, did the law enforcement officer have a legal right to be in contact with that person, whether it's a traffic stop or a pedestrian stop? We'll take a good look at that. And if the law enforcement officer had a legal right to be there, then we have to look at what was the behavior exhibited by the individual upon contact by law enforcement.
How many shots were fired, where the person was hit, how close, how far, those may not determine whether an officer broke federal law. To find out why, we go back to a Supreme Court decision that set case law that affects how an officer's actions can be judged.
It was 1989, and the case was Graham versus Connor. Important questions must be asked. Did the suspect pose a safety threat to the officer or the public? And did the officer act reasonably in the moment? Can't use 20/20 hindsight to judge the officer's decision, the Supreme Court ruled.
You have to try and assess that situation as it occurred at that moment for that officer, utilizing the same training and experience that that officer might have had at that time in that scenario.
It's been suggested by some who protested police shootings, officers should back off when a suspect gets wound up. It may sound like a good thought to some, but it turns out that retreating could get an officer charged under federal law.
If the officer were to just walk away, for example, and something horrific were to happen, there is a clause in there where that officer could be held criminally liable for keeping others from harm.
In the 2 years Agent Palmer has investigated officer-involved shootings in Utah, he says not one has violated federal law.
Each of the cases that we've looked at, we've been able to determine that no violation of federal criminal civil rights has been committed.
Deanie Wimmer reporting.